Redevelopment Agency. It is 5:30. It's Thursday, July 18th, 2019. Mary, is there a quorum present? Proper notice been given?
Yes.
Thank you so much. We have CRA item number 1. It's Proposed Community Redevelopment Agency, CRA, budget for fiscal year 2019-2020. Ms. Colleen?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Oh. Did I do something? Nope. That's the last page. Okay. Proposed budget for the CRA, fiscal year 2020. A little bit of history. The Community Redevelopment Agency, CRA, was established way back in 1990. We renewed it in January of 2017 for 30 years with an expiration date of 2047. Hopefully we'll all be working here still then. The purpose is to finance and revitalize certain areas of the city. The board is comprised of the commission, and also we have the benefit of 2 additional members, Gail Isaac Thomas and Dan Kelsey. I was hoping they were going to be here. So the governing board must provide public notice to adopt the budget, which we do. And Florida Statute 163 governs CRAs. And this year there was a lot of legislative updates. I don't think the current legislature is fond of CRAs. So ethics training is required for officers and commissioners. A lot of more budget and reporting requirements. One of the things I thought was really interesting is we have to publish certain digital boundary maps on our website. And I don't know how you comply with ADA for a map, but that's one of the requirements. And also we follow established procurement policies, which we do right now. This is our budget highlighted in yellow, and we typically reflect, you want me to wait a second?
Yeah. Good evening, Ms. Gail.
Good evening, everyone.
We're just getting to the good part.
How's it going today? Thank you.
So what's highlighted in yellow is the proposed budget for the upcoming year. And we have the current budget for this year. What we project will be the actual revenues and expenditures at the end of September. So when we look at the proposed budget, we're starting with reserves for future projects of $924,000. We have revenue coming from the county and Lake County Water Authority. That's at $297,000. Other revenue is interest income, which we earn from our bank. That's $10,000. The transfer from the general fund is $378,000. That gives us total revenue of $686,000. Expenditures, admin, that's salaries, that's audit, that's conference fees, and book subscriptions. CRA programs, that's $30,000, and that's for asbestos remediation, code enforcement, demolitions, and there's also a charging station for electric cars. CRA street lighting, that's typically standard $55,000. Development incentives, I'll go into more detail on the next slide, $137,000. CRA projects, $498,000. Total expenditures, $752,000, which gives us reserves for future projects of $858,000. A little more detail on development incentives, the new gateway grants, $42,000. Committed gateway grants, $30,000. Economic development incentive program, $30,000. The redevelopment agreement, and that's with Lake Investment Ventures, $25,000. CRA development incentives, $10,000. And then projects, we talked about this one last week, the housing rehabilitation, $250,000. Bay Street drainage, $145,000. Street rehabilitation, $50,000. And then the sidewalk program, $53,000, which that's total expenditures of $752,000. And that's about it in a nutshell. Any questions? questions.
Anybody have any questions of Colleen? No?
Is that the street lighting just in the CRA?
Just in the CRA.
So, do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Colleen, you need us to do anything with this, or we'll bring it, do we vote on it later, or?
I think once you approve it, then we can take it to the board, and then you'll approve it.
The CRA, as a board, does
Well,
need to
okay.
at least accept it.
Accept it, move it on to.
And move it on to the commission for budget processing.
Yes.
Looking for a motion to accept this and move it on to the commission
Did
for
you want to
consideration.
open the floor to public comment?
We probably can. I'm looking down at the next thing there. So anybody like to talk to the commission or the board about what you've just heard? Not seeing any. I'm looking for a motion to move this to the city commission for approval or
I'll make that
consideration.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. First and second, any more discussion? Not hearing any. Roll call, please.
Vice Chair LaHoop Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Moran?
Aye.
Ms. Aliberti?
Aye.
Ms. Lee?
Aye.
Chairman Holland?
Aye. Tom? General CRA update, July 18th, 2019.
Yes, good evening. Just a brief presentation on where we are in the past month and year-to-date with the CRA. So generally speaking, I've talked a little bit about revenues and expenses. So this month might be a little difficult to see, but this month the revenues have caught up. We had a large revenue outstanding with the completion of Palmetto Plaza. That's a reimbursement grant. And so you can see there's a little bit of the grant still outstanding, but revenues have basically caught up, and we're just about at budget for the year for revenues, which is great. And then as far as expenses, I'll talk a little bit about Palmetto Plaza and the seawall, but we've had some expenses on sidewalks, tree planting. Utility services is the CRA expense for street lighting. And so revenues and expenses are both on pace and looking pretty good overall for the CRA. A couple of projects, Palmetto Plaza, we're just about closed out for the grant. There's a little bit more reporting that we have to do and a little bit more reimbursement to be realized, but pretty close on that. And then actually done pricing the grill, just about ready to order it.
I signed the purchase order today.
We wanted to separate it out from the grant because it was not part of the grant, and so we wanted to make sure it was completely separate. But that's moving forward, and we'll get it ordered. When it gets here, we'll get it installed, and so that's happening. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Lake Eustis seawall. So staff and our engineers kind of reevaluated the seawall. We've mentioned that there's a bit of cracking, a bit of a failure, but it isn't catastrophic. And so staff is monitoring to see if that cracking is getting any worse, because the way we address it is going to depend, is it getting worse, is it staying the same? And so what we're doing at this point is continuing to monitor and reevaluate. And we've said that it's tied to Farron Park Phase 4 because we didn't want to tear up Farron Park for Phase 4 and then come back in and tear up the seawall for the seawall. And so we were combining the two. Well, now, in working with our engineers, they feel, while we're reevaluating and monitoring, that eventually the repairs can be done from the lake. And so we can go ahead with Farron Park Phase 4 and not tear everything up to come back and do the seawall. So the plan at this point is move forward with Farron Park Phase 4, continue to monitor the seawall, and figure out what, if anything, we need to do to rehabilitate it. So the CRA had budgeted $400,000 for seawall repair, and that money is going to stay in the budget, and if it moves to next fiscal year, we'll go through the process to encumber and keep that money there for that improvement, because we probably will still need some of that money in the future, but it will probably not be happening in conjunction with Farron Park. So actually, that's about all I have. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Tom?
Just one.
Yes, sir.
Where is it? What section is it? Is it from the shell?
Behind the pool and the splash pad area.
And how far does it go? Like, is it 100 yards or?
I believe it's
141 feet, so going north from,
Yeah, it's kind of the Veterans
yeah,
Monument. If you come
Okay.
around, you'll see from that strip where it hits an angle.
Yeah.
yep,
It starts at that angle and comes back behind the splash pad.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am?
I have one. Why wouldn't we want to go ahead and do the seawall?
Because the project came in way over budget, so we're reevaluating the engineering to see if there's a better way to do it at a least expensive cost.
Okay. I thought maybe engineering wanted a new boat or something.
No, no,
So
no.
that they could do it. So,
We
No.
did that.
We bid it out, it came in almost twice over
Wow.
budget, so we're gonna reevaluate what actually is in condition, and we may change scope of project to try and bring it into line with budget.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Emily, any questions?
No.
Ms. Gale?
I have a question. It's regarding East CRA area again. It was in the records it said that it was a sidewalk from Palmetto to Glover on both sides, and it's not. When is that going to be completed?
I'll have to take a look at it.
Okay.
I'll have to take a look at what's in the plan and what's in the program for Public Works.
Yes, it stopped at what used to be Eustis Manor. It never did go all the way.
Sure.
And I was just wondering why.
What streets was it, Gale?
McDonald.
We can
It's
look at-
supposed to go down to Glover,
McDonald to Glover?
yes.
We'll look at the plans. and then
Palmetto to Glover.
We'll look at the plans and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of Tom?
No, not right offhand.
All right.
I
Not
can't
seeing
think of any.
Anybody out in the audience want to speak to anything Tom said? Not seeing any. Anybody else want to bring anything forward for the CRA?
So the budget for the CRA is, what's the final budget?
The
that we're
final
dealing
budget
with
for current fiscal year or
Yes,
upcoming fiscal year?
upcoming. I'm sorry. Is that the 85862,
Right.
Carleen?
No, that's what we expect we'll have in reserved for future projects at the
Okay.
end of the year.
Okay.
So revenues are almost 700,000 in the 680, I think, range. And then expenses are in the 750. So expenses are a bit higher, and we'll be using reserves to cover that difference.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, Ms. Emily.
Are there any other projects planned for that Bates Avenue area, or is it completed?
We've talked a little bit about there being a future phase for Palmetto Plaza. The discussion is that future phase might involve the home where the neighborhood center is, and we certainly don't want to lose that.
Right.
And so I know staff is currently working with the county to potentially acquire a few more lots. That would be a potential future phase for Palmetto Plaza. That is not budgeted for at this point, and there are no other projects budgeted for at this point. But we had, back in 2017, a public input meeting with a dot exercise, and we did a survey, and we've gotten plenty of feedback on projects that folks would like to see, and so we kind of need to reevaluate that and figure out where we're heading. But the short answer is, there's nothing programmed at this point. But there are reserves where we could take on a project if we can get consensus on where we're heading.
I like what you said about the 1128 Clifford, the Resource Center, doing something in that area and would be great. So I hope that we will be looking at something there.
Ms. Gertrude, if you'll come up to the microphone, because they are recording
So while
it.
she's coming,
Yes, ma'am.
I see the lot next door to the house has been cleared. What is
Yeah.
that for?
Are you talking the
Next.
shed
Resource center.
behind the house?
Next to the resource center.
To the right of the resource center?
Yeah.
To the left.
Lori can speak to that.
That's on the agenda,
I think
right?
it's on the agenda.
It's on the
Okay.
It's on the agenda for
Yes.
tonight.
The lot was cleaned up by our Public Works Department. It was becoming an eyesore, and the current property owner wasn't maintaining it. So we asked Public Works to get it cleaned up so that
The difference.
it was not detracting from the neighborhood.
Okay. All
Ms.
right.
Gertrude.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Gertrude Cobb, citizen. I was concerned about handicap parking at Palmetto Plaza. There is none. And And we gonna need a lot of handicap parking, because there's a lot of crippled people out there who drive cars. I'm one of them.
Thank you, Ms. Gertrude. Tom, can you make a note of that? We'll take a look at that as we're going through. Anyone else have any comments or any statements they'd like to make? Not seeing any, we're going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting of the CRA, and we'll come back at 10 till 6 with the local planning agency meeting.